Okay.
Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Health Today. I'm your host, Ken Stearns. Little video there of me, kind of a video, and then actually a disassociated talkover. That was about almost 3 years old now, when I was kind of pontificating what it would be like to travel the country, rock up into people's homes, put a big jar of questions on their dining room table, and then peel their story back like an onion. And it was an amazing experience. And surprisingly to me, the one I didn't have on my bingo card was the common thread was mental health, and just seeing the amount of just human devastation, for people mentally, physically, emotionally, that's happened in people's lives across the country. Whether it's trauma or injuries or mental trauma, mental anguish. Just in watching people do stuff. Humans being humans out there, and it's not always pretty. And there are, doing this show allowed me to kind of learn more about what's going on and what people are doing to kind of help alleviate the crisis. And I think one of the most beautiful things is when you have a system that gets overloaded, a lot of alternative ways. People seek their own kind of water level to find help and to find treatment and to find alternatives, especially when, they don't feel like what is happening to them is being addressed, or if they have another way out, especially the pain that comes with mental health and all the challenges we've got as being humans. And I think, plant-based medicine is gotten a lot of play on this podcast, and for good reasons. It's new, it's upcoming, it's exciting. It's not in the restrictive zone, and people can treat themselves. There's not a lot of mystery behind it, although there is still some mystery. And, but it's been around a few thousand years. I mean, as long as humanity, people have been doing self-care. So I've got, I was just having a great chat with Diamond Drip. Welcome, Diamond, to the show.
Again. Thanks for having
And
me.
yeah, hey everybody. And just so so cool meeting having this role and being able to hear so many people, how they're helping and jumping into it, and then also how they got into it. So Diamond and I were kind of cracking up. I was telling her name is awesome, and she explained how she got her name, which is also awesome. I love the fact you want to be found and you want to be you. And what a great way to be you, have your own name. And then we were laughing. I was asking her about the art behind her. And if you're listening on an audio version, I can't I can't fully see what it is. So all I can say is it looks pretty psychedelic and tripedelic. And it's apparently in a room where there's some healing going on. Diamond, welcome to Mental Health Today. Thanks for being a guest. Where are you sitting and what's going on?
Thank you, Ken. And hi, everyone. So, where I'm sitting physically is a temple. The name of the temple is called Temple of Mother Earth. It's in Washington, D.C., where I am. And like you said, a lot of healing goes on in this room.
Mm.
I was actually, the place has two buildings. So, we have what we affectionately call the temple, and then we have the magic house where other ceremonies happen. And so, I was actually in that space, and I was offered the opportunity to come over here and choose one of the rooms upstairs. And I was like,
Oh,
you know what? I
I
think I
I
would like that
I know
tone,
which room I'm picking.
right? So a lot of combo ceremonies happen in this room, which I haven't personally done combo. My experience with psychedelics is in the psilocybin magic mushroom space, but
Hmm.
every time I hear about just how it detoxes you, it's something that I'm sort of mentally gearing my mind up to, just because we're here in this human experience so that we can learn and we can have all types of experiences. And so detoxing things that don't serve us is 100% something that I'm always up for. And if I get a little lesson, a little nugget out of it too,
Hmm.
then that's um icing on the cake.
It is icing on the cake. How did you find yourself doing this? How do you end up as,
Yeah, right, in a room with
yeah, in a
combo.
room, in a combo room?
Yeah, so in August of 2022, I participated in a clinical trial that tested the efficacy of psilocybin, so magic
Mm.
mushrooms, in individuals with bipolar 2, treatment-resistant bipolar 2 depression.
Oh,
And
goodness. Okay, I
yeah,
didn't know. Oh, I missed this fact
I
about
didn't give
you.
you I didn't give you the
Oh,
full because it's a
okay.
mouthful.
And this is a
Yeah.
clinical trial as well.
Yes.
Super. Okay, keep going. Okay.
Yes. So August of 2022, that was my dosing date, August 2nd. So it's crazy to think that I'm coming up on 2 years post trial.
Yeah.
Every time I'm reminded of how far away from that experience I am, I'm like, wow, it still feels like it was like, a few months ago in a lot of ways, but like also just so much growth. And so um at the time that I participated in the trial, I was actually still working in my first business. Diamond Drip Consulting is my second business, and it is my heart and soul, and it is the one that I'm like all for. And so the trial actually helped me see that. It helped me see that
Oh.
I was doing a lot of giving away of energy without necessarily getting the energy matched in terms of in this material plane. And so I
Hmm.
was like, okay, what is it in my businesses that I love doing that I can really, right? We always say we need to let go of the 80% and focus on the 20%. So, what is the 20% mastery that I can focus on versus the 80% that it really just feels like a drain on my energy? And it was the thing at that time in 2022 was clear to me was I knew that I wanted to help people with their mindset, but I was still in my own stuff. So even though I actually had an idea to kind of do what I'm doing now in the coaching space, helping people understand who they are and how that can show up in their business,
Hmm.
I kind of was operating in a fear of like, okay, if someone, I was kind of at this precipice of like life coach, business coach kind of thing. And so I was like, I don't know how to say that someone can come and work with me at the beginning of 6 months. And like at the end of 6 months, they're going to be like healed. I don't know how to market that authentically and honestly because I can't. So I was like, okay, if they don't know anything about AI, they don't know anything about how to get visible with video, building a website. My degree is in visual communications. I was like, okay, in 6 months, they will know these things. It's
Okay.
measurable, it's attainable. And in building my brand in the business coach space, I was getting clients, but there was still this disconnect. Like they were literally learning the proven strategies, they were learning how to use the technology to do the thing, but they were get caught up. And if I post this, who's going to engage with it? If I host a masterclass, is anybody going to come? And I'm like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? You're amazing. Of course. I'm like,
I
what are
love
you saying? What are you saying? And so one of the things that I was noticing in my business was that like in sales conversations, I started to doubt my ability to help them. And so that sent me on this kind
Ooh,
of
yeah.
mini quest of like, what's my business superpower? Because I do a lot of online networking. And so I run into business coaches all the time. Some specialize in LinkedIn, some specialize in video. And I'm
Yes.
like, so what's my superpower? I don't want it to be AI, and mindset isn't it apparently because there are a lot of business and mindset
Yeah.
coaches out there
Yes.
too. So like what's my superpower? And everywhere I go, people always say, I love her energy. And I was like, that's great. I don't know how to
How
monetize
how to
energy,
package that into a superpower.
right? And so it became
Hmm.
this thing that I saw as something that was outside of me. Like people really like my energy. And so at a time where I really needed it, I was speaking with an intuitive life coach. That's what her title was at the time. Um, and she asked me, she was like, do you know your energy type? And I was like, I was so in my logical brain, like, now? What are you even saying
The
right
high
now?
one, the one that's supercharged. That's my energy type.
Right? And she sent me this calculator for human design. And I pulled the calculator that I have on my website now is very robust. It gives you a little paragraph with each thing so that you know and kind of understand what you're looking at a little bit. You may
Mm,
not understand the actual body graph itself, but you understand the words that the report pulls. The
okay.
calculator that I used did not have little blurbs. So immediately in 5-1, in human design, I'm a 5-1, and the one is the archetype of the investigator, the researcher. And so immediately
Ah,
it was ignited. I went on YouTube, I watched a video, I was like, what does it mean to be a generator? And everything about my energy was like literally being said in this video. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And everything that I found after that first initial search, it was like I was coming home to myself. And I didn't necessarily know right then how it tied into my business, but I knew it was something that I personally had to get a deeper understanding of. And so it was through really understanding my energy and looking at my chart and then looking at my daughter's chart. I have a 7-year-old, and as
oh,
we know, 7-year-olds are not very emotionally intelligent.
yes, not
So,
very, not quite developed.
yes. So when I started to see things in her chart, even, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I pulled her dad's chart, and everyone, it just fit them so well. And I was like, this is the superpower. I'm not sure how it's the superpower yet. And for my network who is watching this, I appreciate you because you've stuck with me. I kind of just, when I first discovered human design, I just kind of just started making videos. I was like, this is what is generator. This is a 5-1 profile, and like no context whatsoever. They're just like, weren't you just talking about AI? What is this
Oh,
energy stuff you're talking about? Things are more fluid now, but like this is
yeah, you're
and what
matching who you are with your idea. Yeah, it takes time to get everything in line.
yeah. Yeah. But now it is such a gift, so much so that like when I first encountered it, I was still really holding on to like the business coach. And like whenever people would say things like, "Oh, you're a spiritual coach, you're a life coach," like my ego would kind of flare up a little bit, and I'd be like, "No, but I also do all of these other things." And I do like, and now I'm in a place where like cool to talk about business, but if you don't want to dive deeper into your own energy so that whatever you create in your business can be aligned to your gifts and your
Mm,
strengths, then I may not be the right
you
person.
may not, yeah, you may not
Yeah.
even be able to help them, right? If you're
Yeah.
not, if you're a person, if you're doing something for work that's not aligned to your human design, how painful is that?
Ooh. So I give the example of the projector energy type. So projectors, they don't have their sacral defined. And so what that means is they don't have like consistent access to that energizer bunny like spirit that manifesting generators have. And so
Okay,
when they're, for context, like something like 70% of the population are generators. So this whole work hustle grind mentality is something that kind of was developed in like kind of for generators, but not really because we're not supposed to initiate, but like that concept. And so what happens is projectors try and keep up. They're like, oh, this person's doing this, so I have to do this too. This person's doing this, so I have to do this too. And then they burn out their poor little not fully charged batteries doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually matter. And then when they actually receive invitations that are correct and aligned for them, they say no because they just don't have the energy for it.
huh? Interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so even in, I'll give another example, even in my business, I have what's called emotional authority. And so there are 7 different authority types. The one that I like to juxtapose is splenic authority. So splenic authority, they have this gut feeling of like, yes or no, I have the energy to do like to sustain something or not. Emotional authority, which is like half the population, we at a minimum should sleep on things, like especially big things. It doesn't like, don't sleep on, what cereal you're gonna have in the morning. Like it's the big stuff. It's the career, the friendships, moving,
Yes.
love life, things like that. You should at a minimum sleep on things. And if you can give yourself more time to ride that emotional wave and decide from like a clear neutral spot, like
Mm.
that's even better. And so in learning that, I even started to see some of my mistakes
Oh,
where we
yeah,
live in a
yeah,
society that's like, I need an answer now.
yeah.
And so even though I may not have been necessarily ready for it, I was like, oh, this deal is going to expire, this thing is going to do whatever. And just seeing areas in my own life where I acted because I felt this pressure externally to give an answer, when really I should have just
Yes.
waited for clarity. So that's another.
Interesting. I just put just for people listening either on especially on the audio, I just put the
Yeah.
diamonddripconsulting.com on the shrine, or I forget what you call it, but the banner, the rolling
Yeah.
banner, and you can get your human, so they can go there and the human testing, the human design test, the offer pops up.
Yes,
And so
it
people,
does.
yeah, so I'll do that a little bit later when we finish. I'll go and, do my test,
Oh my
and then
gosh, I would love to see your energy. Yes.
I get the results right away or later,
Yes.
or
You get them right away.
okay, very
Yeah.
cool. How much fun is that? So I'm gonna go do that in a little while. Check it out. So I'd encourage anybody, go, free test, diamonddripconsulting.com, and, heck, take part. Um,
Yeah. Do you know your time of birth? Do you know your time of birth
I
off the top of your head?
I have to look at my birth. I can't remember if I
Yeah.
think it's in the afternoon.
Okay.
I think
So,
it's like
that's the only
4:30. Oh, she probably
will give you lots of information. However, you need to know your time of birth because
okay.
that helps. So, human design is a synthesis of a few different sciences. So, it
Mm,
combines the Kabbalah tree of life, the chakra model, astrology, astronomy, quantum
wow.
physics,
Wow.
and the Chinese I Ching. Yeah, it's a synthesis. So the more accurate your time of birth is, most people know their birth date, most people know where they were born, but that time of birth is important because if you're even like a few hours off, sometimes your profile can actually change based on where the planets were at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, I have the exact time, so I'm good.
Yay.
I can plug in the exact time, and I'll find the birth, make sure I get the right one in there.
Yes.
Um, so you were, I mean, at some point you were bipolar and treatment resistant?
Yeah. The depression
Whoa.
of, yeah, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's you were on SSIs for a while?
Mhm. Yeah, you name it, Seroquel, Prozac, Abilify, Risperidone. I was on a lot of them.
What was the cause or I don't know if it's the diagnosis or the cause. It's kinda like I'm a chicken and egg for me. Do you know what is it genetic or trauma induced or life induced? How
I
did
think
you
it was
end
trauma. I think it was
trauma?
trauma induced. And it's even one of those things where I appreciated the bipolar 2 diagnosis at the time because it helped me understand in the language that my logical brain could understand it,
Hmm.
what was going on with me. I think if I would have found human design back then, I would have been like, what is this? But even with the diagnosis and knowing that I'm emotional, I even question it too. So I think that it's
Okay.
100% trauma. And part of the reason why I say that is because my mom, and I've said this on many interviews, that my mom is undiagnosed borderline personality disorder. And so
Okay.
the reason why I say undiagnosed is because I personally have asked about 3 or 4 therapists. And I feel like if they all agree then it's likely that person has that diagnosis, even if they
Uh,
themselves don't go and
right, right,
get
right.
get the test. But seeing how some of her shadows and her trauma even affected me, and having, because I had the wonderful privilege a couple of weeks ago to pull her chart, and I just saw all of the different ways that her conditioning affected me.
Oh God. I mean, you guys are tied, like, hey, look, she's still carrying your DNA,
Yeah.
right? It's floating around. I mean, it's floating around her body.
Yeah.
Um, and your potential babies shared the same womb as your mom. This is another
Yeah.
thing that blows me away with women, that you're at 4 months, your eggs are fully developed.
Yeah.
And so her grandchildren, your mom carries her grandchildren.
Yeah.
It's
I
wild.
It is. It is.
But also, so that energy transfers, right? So the other part is that is generational. That makes sense to me now. I never really understood the generational trauma. But I think once I understand you're sharing DNA, you're sharing space, you're sharing energy containers,
Yeah.
right? You're in the same container. The
Yeah.
souls are all there, maybe, or maybe they're floating around. Who knows how all that works? Um,
Yeah.
are you off medication now? So this is crazy to think. I mean, you were full on in the
Yeah.
grips of big pharma,
Yeah.
no hope. I mean, you're not coming off that. Not that I know of. People don't just magically get off it, right? And
No. No,
and
they don't.
so I mean, that's gotta feel a bit hopeless. And then how did you get into the trial? Like, how does it find you, or how do you find the trial?
Yeah. So, I love that question. So, um, have you ever heard of the show Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith?
I have.
Okay.
I know that
So
show.
cool.
It's a podcast too, right? So,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Um,
podcast. I think it's a podcast.
I know it's on Facebook Live. I know they do like Facebook TV
Yeah, yeah,
somehow.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah. So I was watching a Red Table Talk episode, and they had Michael Pollan, I believe is how you say his
okay.
last name, who is the person who wrote the book, Psychedelics, what they teach us about. It's this really long title, but he talks about his different experiences with plant medicine. And so they had him on, this Caucasian gentleman, at a round table with a bunch of African American people, and they were kind of just picking his brain. And the mom, Jada Pinkett's mom,
Yeah,
she was like, why don't we see more African Americans doing and talking about like the benefits of
it's a
what
good question.
psychedelics can
Actually,
do?
even I wonder that. That's a good question.
And so they kind of formulated, a few different scenarios. One was, a lot of African American people don't feel safe to really leave their body in that way, and like actually be able to focus on the experience and not be worried about like their external. The other thing was, they don't see enough people who look like them talking about the benefits of what it can do. Many
Fair
of us
enough.
have, yeah, many of us have this connotation. When anyone says magic mushrooms, we think Woodstock. We
You're just
think
thinking
like
just
hippie.
hippie white, just a bunch of tie-dyed hippie white dudes, chicks running around with flowers in their hair, and and God knows what the heck was going on in the woods. I don't want
Yes,
that's not my culture.
yes, exactly. So that's what many people think of, and African
Absolutely.
Americans weren't
I
necessarily a part
I think
of.
even most white people look at it that way, and they're like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's the hippie stuff over there. Stay away from that, son."
yeah. So, so when I heard this at the time, in my first business, I was like, oh, okay, this is like something that maybe I can add as a certification. Because they talked about, MAPS has a certification program
Yes,
where you can
right.
like become certified to
Mhm.
like hold space for people. But there was not really a guarantee that you would have clients after it. Like it was just kind of like, come learn this knowledge. So
Mm.
they also talked about getting involved in clinical trials, because as we know, psilocybin is a Schedule 1 substance, still up there with meth and all of the other things that aren't actually good for you.
Yeah.
And so to help, remove one of the criteria for Schedule 1 is like it has no medical benefit. Well, if we have all these clinical trials talking
It's like
about the benefits of,
just 100
then,
years, just 100 years of trials.
you know? So I was like, oh, okay, there's not necessarily guarantee with like getting certified to hold space, but I can at least, further the advancement of the
Okay.
science and help with the de-scheduling of it.
Yeah.
And so it was just, the universe is always working in divine timing, because at the time that I was in denial for my bipolar 2 diagnosis for a really long time. I had just kind of accepted it about 8 to 10 months before I saw this Red Table Talk episode. And so when I went to clinicaltrials.gov, I was one of like the last 2 or 3 participants that they were
Ooh.
accepting for the trial for my exact diagnosis, which I had just kind of
Wow.
accepted was like
Okay.
me.
You're the last one in the door. They're closing the door behind you.
Yeah. And so that was how I found it. I sent an email to Sam because he was in charge at the time, and I didn't know how it worked. So I kind of just like, and this is so important, and this is one of the things that I talk about with my clients, is like releasing attachment, because I
Hmm.
wasn't sure how it worked. And so versus like worrying every day, checking my email, like, oh, are they going to get back to me? I kind of submitted it. I said, if it's meant to be, they will reply back.
Yeah.
And I just kind of released it. And like 3 or 4 weeks later, I get an email and they're like, hey, we want to talk to you to see if you qualify for this study. And so,
Like
yeah, the rest
on the
is
right.
history.
And so you went, where did they do the trial? Where did they do it? In
Shepherd
DC?
Pratt. No, it was at Shepherd Pratt. It's up in Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a clinic. And so what's a clinical dose for this? What did you do? Just one, you did one episode, one
Yes.
dose?
Yeah. So the entire trial was 15 weeks. A lot of that was if I had been on if I had been on SSRIs, then that would have been the time it took to like, because they don't want you on anything mind altering. For me, I didn't have to give up any antidepressants. I had my medical marijuana card, so I had to wait for all of the THC to leave my system.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So you really, okay. Interesting. Okay.
yeah. So, and then the actual dosing experience is 3 days in the trial that I was in. So you go in the day before and you kind of, you try on the headphones, you try on the sleep mask, you see where you're going to be. They have a co-pilot program.
Okay.
So I had been kind of talking with the therapist, in the weeks of like leading up. So she knows who I am and I know who she is because she's going to be holding
Yeah.
space. But then, like, in case she has to go to the bathroom, and they don't want to like have a random person there when you wake up that you don't know, they have a co-pilot. So you meet your co-pilot person the day before. You take your last drug test to make sure you don't have anything that would mess up the results. You go in the next day, so day 2 of this 3-day process,
Yeah.
early in the morning. I pretty much went to sleep, to eat breakfast, to go into this other state. And so one of the things that I have been saying is that the trial showed me everything that I was doing like recreationally wrong. Because when I would experiment with mushrooms before the trial, I would do it at night. Like I would be like, oh, I have to get all my work done and then I can like go venture off. But there was, after I would come down from it, like I would just go to sleep. There was no journaling, there was no integration, there was none of that. So they do it early in the morning. And then of course the scales, because clinical trials always with the scales, but I kind of miss them a little bit just because not the amount of questions, but just being able to document like where I
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
like the
Exactly.
baseline from like how I answer them now. So that's day 2. And then day 3, you go back. A lot of what we were able to do was in person, online, but day 3, you go back and actually integrate I journaled like they recommended that I do
Mm.
after. And so for me, it was just a matter of just reading my journal. And then them asking questions to help me integrate. And then we had a few Zoom sessions, the therapist and I, to just continue the integration.
And what's a dose? What was a dose for this?
Sorry, you totally asked that question.
No, it's
It's like
okay.
it's the equivalent of 5 grams of mushrooms, but it's like they extract it. I still am like so curious about the science of how they do this because
Yeah,
they extract it
because they want to
into
make
these
sure
like
everybody gets the same dose.
yeah, they extract it into these like little teeny like 4 little capsules. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like pure psilocybin in these like teeny tiny little
Yeah, that's
capsules.
a that's not a babe. That's a serious dose.
Yes, yes. Full on synesthesia, full on ego death, full on all of the stuff that you read about when you read
Yeah,
about magic mushrooms.
5 grams will rip away your ego.
Yep. Yeah.
Probably the most I think for anybody that's never experienced it, it's probably the most difficult because they can imagine a lot of things, colors, and and you've
Mhm.
seen visuals, and you can watch you can turn on a funky screen and see things that you might see when when you're tripping. Um, but nothing can really describe losing yourself and becoming nothing, nobody,
Yeah.
no one.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to describe that. What's the most when you look back, the most therapeutic
Mhm.
part? What was the part that really healed you if you could if I can use a word that dramatic?
Yeah. No, I use that word all the time. I used to say cured, but now I'm like, people might pick whatever they're gonna pick apart from that. So I say that
Yeah.
it has healed my depression. So for me, the things that I took out of that trial were I developed 3 things. Self, and they're similar, but they're different. So self-forgiveness, self-compassion, and self-grace. I before the trial, I
I'm
before the what's up?
I'm just laughing because, like, those are, like, the most fundamentally good things you can do to yourself, and to think that, people are on SSIs to get over that stuff, and actually it's just about loving yourself.
Yeah. Before the trial, I was very hard on myself. I was very
Uh,
critical. I was type A perfectionist with the to-do list, and the to-do list never ended. And the trial really helped me release some of that and really figure out like what did I want really? Like, and it was I say now that it was the catalyst for like my own healing journey. It's it's almost like a life, especially with what I'm doing with human design. It's like a lifelong healing journey. Like there's so much to us as souls and spirits having a human experience that like the trial, it opened my mind to be able to receive things like human design, gene keys. I'm now even about to become a soul realignment practitioner, which deals with the Akashic records.
ooh.
Yeah. So I would have not been open to these spiritual things having not gone
I
through
w
that experience.
I just wish your grandmother was here to like, like, pull grandma in because I just wanna know what grandma's gonna say, Diamond.
Um, I've been told actually no, I've been told actually that, my grandmother is one of my guides. She's,
Ooh.
so in addition to
She's in your corner.
yeah,
I
I'm
love
a
that.
Ifa practitioner, which is a West African spiritual practice,
Okay.
and so they do divination, to kind of commune with the ancestors and spirits and things like that, and
Oh,
so, it was confirmed that she is in fact one of my guides who is kind of like always looking out for me, which is really nice.
why do I you just know Africa's got some very interesting, cool stuff going back, right? Like, and it's
Yeah,
not that you don't I don't wanna say going back, you probably don't have to go very far afoot
yeah.
in some of the countries to find some of these probably these I'm sure psilocybin still running around in the country,
Or the
in the
equivalent.
continent,
Yeah,
or the equivalent,
yeah,
right?
like
An equivalent.
ayahuasca. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
think
some
they had this like foam thing. Yeah,
yeah, whatever the
there's
version whatever Africa's got, because let's face it, all of humanity has found whatever's gonna give you tripadilly, whatever's gonna put you into the universe, the humans have found it. Licking frogs, eating mushrooms,
yeah,
all stuff, by the way, that could also kill you.
Yes.
But funny that we've managed over the thousands and thousands of years to hold on to these ideas. Even Santa Claus and the rain Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You probably yeah, it
Yes.
looks like you know that story already. You know,
Yes.
I mean that's kind of like the fact that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was literally high on psilocybin or whatever that red button mushroom is. Just unbelievable that the
Yeah.
stories are that close to the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the stories. Where do you so what do you do? So we've got diamonddripconsulting.com. People can
Mhm.
find you there. What are you doing? How do you find your clients? And what kind of clients you look for? Who are you helping? What's your sweet
Yeah.
spot right now?
So my sweet spot, I love that you said right now because we're always
Yeah.
evolving and
Yeah,
changing
it's
and growing.
6 months gonna be different. Get in.
Right?
So if you're listening to this now and this is your sweet, if you're in the sweet spot, get in line.
I love that. So right now I'm working with what I affectionately call soulpreneurs. So it's my spin on
Soulpreneurs.
yeah.
Oh, very cute. Okay, I
It's
see you. I see
it's
you.
my spin on solo entrepreneurs because
Yeah.
yes, solo entrepreneurship is like its own category, but I think
Yes.
that when you start a business because you are so passionate about whatever your service is or your product is, I
Hmm.
think there's a special sauce that kind of comes with it because I know so many solopreneurs who they won't give up on their dream because it's for the collective. Like it's bigger than even they are.
It's bigger than you.
Exactly.
I
And
know that
so
feeling.
you're right, right. You had a whole intro about it, and it's one of the
Yeah,
things that it
exactly,
does.
exactly. My pain and my pain and my love, you know.
Yes.
Sorry, keep going.
But solopreneurs and creatives who have a mission, a message that they're trying to get out, but they are getting caught up or caught up in their own stuff, or,
Mm,
maybe it's a little bit of self-doubt, a little bit of fear, a little bit of imposter syndrome, and they want to know what their superpowers are. They want to know without a doubt,
love it.
without question, who they are and
Mm,
how they are meant to serve the world. And then they want to create their business around whatever those skills are. Yeah.
that's a very interesting way to find there's so many conversations about your purpose. Find your purpose, find your purpose, find your purpose, and it does feel so I that has so I didn't say no, so never. That's really poor English. That has never resonated with me. I was like, it's so not resonated with me. I wanted to say it another way that than saying it hasn't resonated. It's just not and there's no way to truly articulate how to do that. And people have asked me that question on podcasts, and I always struggle with it. So I think this is an interesting way to back into it, which is to find out your superpower and then align that with something you love to do or something you have passion around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very
Yeah.
clever, Diamond.
I appreciate you again. I'm so curious about your energy now.
Um, what's next? So you're doing this, you're here, you got a good spot, you're digging, you
Mhm.
found some gold, you're killing it. What are you also thinking about?
So what's next? The other thing that scares
Yeah, the
me,
other thing. What's the other
the
thing?
other the
What's
other
the
thing
other
that
thing?
scares me, I really my heart's mission is to be able to host retreats in really beautiful parts of the world where people can just disconnect from their
Mm,
everyday life and they can have a week where maybe, we're doing some group work around their human design or their gene keys so they can really kind of know a little bit what their purpose. So the way I envision it is that we would do gene keys, for the first couple of days because that talks about kind of what
yes.
we're talking about, like where you thrive best, like what's your purpose, what are you here to learn in this lifetime, what are you here to
Set the
do.
attention, right? It's a great way to set
Exactly.
your intention can be set based on and yeah, that's powerful. Like all of a sudden I know what my superpower is, and now I'm gonna to get to go ask the universe.
Exactly. So the
Love
way
it.
I envision it is
Winner.
they do their gene keys, then they have the experience, the psychedelic experience, whatever that might be. And then the integration piece is where they start to learn human design and they start to really see how their soul and the gifts that they came in with, like how that can connect to
Mm.
their gene keys so it can be full circle. I'm envisioning that the experience is a part of a bigger program, like the retreat is a part of a bigger program, because I
Yes.
know at some point I'm going to want to read their Akashic records. Because even what I'm finding is that, like, I really have a firm grasp of who I am with human design, but there are certain things, there are certain blind spots that I have that I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know why I have this block. And it could be something from a previous lifetime. So,
Oh yeah.
really going into the soul's records and figuring out, like, have I been making these same, like, mistakes, these same patterns throughout different lifetimes? And what can I do to kind of heal that? So that's the goal. Retreats in beautiful areas where people can disconnect and reconnect with who they truly are.
Beautiful. I've got a one of the guests I interviewed on the jar, John Clark. He just did he's planning his first retreat. So
Exciting.
I met him when he's got a backstory as well, but he had chronic pain,
Mm.
and mushrooms, psilocybin, helped him connect the human body visually. So he was reading a book on structure. He's trying to heal his back. He had back problems. He was like in tremendous pain, like suicidal level pain. Like, if I can't fix this, I just got to kill myself, because this is you can't live like this. And ended up taking psilocybin, and in his mind's eye, the book became alive, 3D, fluid dimensional, and showed him where where his problem was. And he saw it in 3D, and then he fixed
That's
himself.
amazing. That's amazing.
And now he's helping others. And so
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah. And so just as you're talking, like, this is like 12 months ago, this is him. He was telling me, Ken, I'm writing my book. My book's getting written. I'm writing my own book. And, I'm going to do these things. And I was like, that's amazing. And so here you are you're on the same path. I'll hook you up with him on a side chat.
Thank
Um,
you.
any other thoughts, kind of anything you want to leave the audience with? Because this is cool.
Um,
And I think, there's probably, like, I think you have to come back in 6 months, but just for now.
right for now. So the thing that I've really been encouraging people to lean into, and this is why it's the name of my community, it's called Limitless You. And it's kind of a play on words because it's like Limitless University. It's also Limitless
Mm.
YOU, all capital letters. But every single one of us is a limitless being. We have cosmic, divine creation power within us, but
Mm.
our minds will fill us with fear and self doubt
Yes.
that make us think that we can't do certain things. It will impose limitations. So for those people who really want to kind of shred the self doubt, really kind of shred some of the fear by understanding themselves better, I encourage you to pull your chart, because I'm telling you, when I pulled my chart for the first time, right, I didn't know what I was looking at really. Like, I'll start there. Like, it does look kind of crazy, but as you really start to dive deep and you start to read some of the descriptions, you'll find that this is you. And if you can align with your natural gifts and stay out of what we in human design call the not self themes of, like, your open or undefined centers, like, it is the most rewarding experience to just live the rest of your life in what Ra, the founder of human design, he calls the experiment, because we're in an experiment of unlearning all the crap from whatever point we meet human design. We're unlearning all the crap from before that. And so for my aunt, who's 80, she and I had a reading a couple weeks ago, and she's a little bit more set in her ways, but she even sees different ways that she can now align with who she actually is and make the rest of her days here on this planet a little
Yeah.
bit less stressful.
I love that. Crazy idea. How about if we'll try to I've got we'll take these. Would you do 10 short consulting with people if they fill their chart out?
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, I mean, it's going to be too late for you listening on an audio probably to jump in, but I'm going to throw this out on LinkedIn tomorrow. I'll get the interns and we'll just say, hey, go here, do this chart, download it. The first 10 people to do it, we'll get a little free, 20-minute chat with Diamond to go through to explain their human design results. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That lights my heart up so much, because that just had to write a vision statement. I'm working with a new coach now. And part of that vision statement is over the next 5 years, want to educate 1 million souls on how to use their energy more efficiently. So I love this.
Well, all right. 999,990 to go.
Right.
You got to start somewhere. Let's do that when we tomorrow and stuff, and I'll talk to the team and we'll get that out there and just kind of promo it. We don't have a lot of followers, but we got some, and we'll try to. I mean, and for sure, I'll go take mine and I'll talk about it as well once, and I'll shoot you a note when I get it. I'll send it to you. You'll see it though on the back end.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
you'll see it on the back.
Setting up the automations, but yes, I'll see it.
You'll see it on the back end. Okay, and then I'll see it. And if I, when I see it and I have a giggle, I'll shoot you a note. We can have a chat.
Yay! I'm so happy.
Diamond, so cool to meet you. I love your energy. It's awesome. And I love what you're doing. And the fact that you've healed yourself, taking responsibility for your own journey. Amazing, right? We just need, I just feel like the whole universe is waking up and we've got a shift in consciousness, and people are really there we go, lost her. People are really finding out that they know that they don't have to go to somebody else for the answers, right? And somebody else, and I mean the big machine, big government, big pharma, big doctors, and we can trust and lean into each other. And there's a lot of people who know a little simpler, a little safer, a little, little more way to test stuff without jumping in full on into other treatments.
Yeah. Yes.
Biggest treatment of all, people, look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself and you are good enough and you're right where you are supposed to be. And that is the biggest medicine you can take right now. You can do it now. Go look in the mirror and tell yourself you love you. You're worth it.
Yes. Oh, I did a whole affirmation series back in March, April, reminding people. I was like, if you don't see this anywhere else but on your LinkedIn feed, these are some affirmations to help you change your mind about the way you think about yourself.
It sounds like you were been there. You faced that mirror hard. Thanks everybody for listening and supporting mental health today, sharing this episode, especially like you're doing right now. You find yourself compelled to just hit that share button and go tell somebody about it. We've got so many great guests, and you can just scroll through and find somebody that you identify with or a topic you identify with and jump right in. Also, the website has a widget now from Moon Knocks. You can search. Well, at the moment, you can search 20 shows, but you can use the widget on the mhtpodcast.com site. Super cool. And give us a month or so, and Diamond's episode will be up there as well. We'll have all kind of cool links, and you can go ask questions about things on the show. If you're on the audio version, you're on iTunes, you're on Spotify, iHeart, just drop down and give us a rating. We appreciate it. And, write something funny or something not nice, and we love you just the same. It's like, Diamond, thanks so much. I'll see you and hang around for 30 seconds. I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glassblowing. Yeah, we're going to go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.